Taya Sanders, my wonderful friend. Taya Sanders of Clover+Tribe.
Yes.
I'm excited to have you on here and talk about Clover+Tribe.
I'm super excited too.
Welcome to the Junkyard Love podcast.
It is amazing down here. Good
Yeah, you
job
like
with
it?
everything. Yes.
Yeah,
I do.
because you saw it before.
Yes.
Definitely. Do you see it? I mean, I definitely painted the walls. Like I just had my DJ stuff set up down here.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it in stages, I feel like. But it looks awesome down here right now.
Cool. I'm glad.
Very, very cozy.
I'm glad you like it.
Yes.
Is it bigger or smaller than the new place that you just got yourself into?
Whoop whoop.
Hey.
It is about the same size. Maybe my space might be a little bit bigger, I think.
Yeah, you have a
Yeah.
couple more walls. Are you
Yeah.
excited about your new place?
I'm so excited. It's a good day to record this podcast because
It
I'm
is.
on like cloud 9 about it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, for new listeners, let's tell them about yourself. You're the owner of Clover+Tribe. But before we get into that, let's just hear a little bit about Taya Sanders.
Okay, Taya Sanders. I am from Kelso, Washington. Graduated from Kelso High School. Went to Oregon State University. Got my bachelor's in human development. And you can tell, like, when people ask about me, I'm like, oh, this is my career path.
I know. Well, I mean, that's how we are. That's nothing.
It's weird.
We've been talking about that on here. We're just like, we feel like we have to identify ourselves as just our jobs.
Yeah,
we're
because
so
that's
much
like
more,
at
so-
work, they're like, oh, who are you? And I'm like, oh, this is who I am. This is my background. And I graduated from Oregon State a month after I turned 20 years old. So I was a young, I think actually I was the youngest graduate at Oregon State to graduate with a bachelor's degree, which is pretty cool.
That's amazing. You've been doing like Running Start, LCC, all this. You've always been like 5 steps ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to toot my own horn, but
Toot, bro. Why not?
I'm like, I've always been like very driven. I graduated high school with my associates while cheering. I cheered in Albany and Tigard, and so people probably, unless they're from here, don't know where that's at. But it was a long commute, and I cheered while going to school, and while going to school at LCC, and I held almost a full-time job during that whole life experience.
Yeah, and that was because I feel like I went to, way back in the day, I think I went to a couple of your cheer competitions. Those were actually crazy. Like those were sick.
I traveled a lot, like in the
Yeah.
United States. I went to the World's competition in Florida, and I got a couple injuries, but it was a huge thing. Not just when people think of like, oh, Taya was a cheerleader. I'm like, I didn't like doo-doo.
Well, I mean, yeah, you do. That's like how you start out, I think. A lot of people start out like that, you know. And,
I actually didn't do
extend
any. I was a gymnast.
Oh, wait, so you didn't do the high school?
I didn't do any high school. I was a gymnast, and then I did competitive cheer. And really, like, college cheerleading was the first time I like actually said cheers. So it was different. I'm more of like a tumbler, and a stunter and things like that.
You're a stunt rider.
I'm a stunt rider.
All right, cool. So afterwards, when did you stop doing cheer?
So I had back surgery when I was 17. I had a herniated two herniated discs, and I had one rupture. And so then is where kind of I thought my career was going to stop. But I worked through it, and I ended up cheering for Oregon State. So that was awesome. And I graduated, what year did I graduate from college? 2015. So I stopped cheering 2014. Yeah. And that is one thing I would love to like get into. I've had 2 kids, total mom bod. But I would love, like, I can still do backflips and stuff. Like, I would love,
you feel like you'd be able to get a lot of it back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I tell Shaylee too.
It's like just total like muscle memory, and so my boys think it's so cool when I do flips. So I'm like,
oh yeah, dude, they're gonna grow up and just be in parkour. Yeah. These guys are gonna be. I was telling you, I went to that the Urban Warrior. It's like American Ninja Warrior. They have like the paddings in the monkey bars, and it's just super cool. Mm-hmm. I feel like your boys would just rip it up in there.
Oh, Lincoln would love his like favorite show is Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, that's tight. Okay. I don't think I would do very well on Ninja Warrior. I thought that I did. I went in there, man, super cocky. And like,
do they have those like run up walls?
Yeah.
They do?
Yeah, and you're like, I can get to the top of that, and you get halfway up, and it's way scary up here.
Yeah.
And there's like the guy who shows you around. It was like this younger kid, and he's just a stud. Like I don't know if his family owns it or what.
Does it with one arm?
Yeah, and he's just like, he's acting more mature than me in every way, and he's just getting really high up there, and he's telling us what to do. So after college,
I'm trying to think. After college, I came back here. I worked for a mental health facility locally. And I actually got that job before I graduated. Well, at each stage of my life, I always held like 1 to 2 jobs, sometimes 3. While Jake, my husband, not you, other Jake, was trying to get registered in his job. I was the one that was, I worked at a Head Start, so a preschool class, and I would do that, and then I would go work at a coffee shop, Caffeine Cafe, whoop whoop, local coffee shop. I worked there, and then I would go coach cheer lessons for little girls and do private lessons and stuff. And I would also babysit on the side because I didn't have kids of my own, so I'm like a total workaholic. I'll work, especially without kids. Oh my gosh. Yeah. If I didn't have kids at this point, it would be dangerous because all I do is work. And so I would pick up like house sitting gigs and stuff. And I remember Jake being like, oh my gosh, Taya. And I'm like, it's money. It's money.
You're like, I can't say no to anything. I can't say
no. And what else am I doing? I'm like sitting here.
Sharpening your skills though.
Right. So I came back here, worked for mental health. And then I actually got on at ESD 112, so that's who I've worked for the last 4 years. And I worked with at-risk youth in the community, all schools in Cowlitz County, so that was an amazing experience. And it did gear me up to what I want to do forever.
Right.
But there's this little thing called Clover+Tribe. That's my baby. And I started doing that, and career had to be put on hold for a little bit because I want to see where this business goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you first started Clover+Tribe, what was it?
Well, I was actually 9 months pregnant, and I was walking with my mom, and I was, waddling. Yeah, not even walking. And I want to say it was like a couple weeks before my oldest Lincoln came. And I was like, I really want like a baby boutique or something. And at the time there was not, I know now there are baby boutiques, but at the time there really wasn't here. And I was having a little boy, and I was having a hard time finding cool clothes for my baby to wear. A lot of like items that I was getting were Carter's, and it was like, my friends' kids had them, and you're just like, oh, you want your kid to look cool.
Of course, you want them to have something different. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I remember kind of just like discussing it with my mom, and like her and I both were like, oh my gosh, that would be so cool. Like she could do like screen printing or something like that, and I could do. And at the time, I did not know how to sew at all. It was like, oh, yeah, I could probably figure it out. But
what experience did you have in like screen printing or any of that?
My mom has experience doing that with she like the Kelso wrestling. She helps out with all of that stuff. So she could totally do that. But for myself, I didn't. That would be my part of the gig would be like the handmade clothes and stuff. And at that time, I didn't really think like, oh, I could buy stuff off a Wish and then mark it up or something.
Right.
It was like, no, if I'm going to do it, it's going to be like handmade. It's going to be unique. It's going to be good quality. So it was because my personality is like, I'm the kind of person that when I like see something or when I get an idea, like I will go for it.
Heck yeah.
Or when I want something, I'm trying to get better about it. But when I want something, it's like, oh, I will go get it.
I'm trying to get better at it.
I'm trying to get better at it. It might be in Seattle, but I'll drive there if my local store doesn't have it. Like I don't know. Just when I have my mind set on something, I want it. Same thing with like when I have a goal, like I will reach it and I won't stop until I reach it. So when this kind of idea came about, the last couple weeks of my pregnancy, I was kind of thinking like, I could totally do this. And it didn't actually start until I had my son.
So you're 2 weeks before giving birth and you're like, I think I should do this. Right now is the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any distraction away from like that miserable last 2 weeks.
Start a business, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Shoot.
any listener, if
Maternity
you're getting
leave,
stressed
what's
out,
that?
yeah, start a business. Doesn't matter how close you are to paddling.
Right? And I worked at ESD 112 during that time, and I actually got summer off. So I had my son in May, and I actually got that whole summer off.
I'm just not a fan of this cat. It just sucks.
I'm like totally a distracted person.
I know, dude. I closed the door. Get out of here, man.
Okay, what was I saying? Oh, I worked at ESD at the time, and I had my son in May, and I worked up until I had him. But then I got that entire summer off because I worked for the schools. So I had until like mid-August off. So after I had my son, all newborns do is like sleep. I mean, they're pretty, I don't know, boring.
You don't have to do much?
No, not
You just kind of have to be like present, like around, ready.
Yeah, right. And, they're like connected to you for a little bit, But like as far as like recovering and stuff, like I could not sit like at all. So maternity leave is what drove me crazy. And I went and bought a machine. And I was like, I'm going to teach myself how to sew.
Okay. You just pulled up YouTube, or what'd you start doing?
YouTube. All YouTube.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What's your sewing machine? Is it like
it's a
some
serger.
Crazy fancy one? Or
I've upgraded since then, okay. But I just have a serger. I do have a sewing machine too, but I do like everything. Do you know what a serger is? I
think I know of it.
Okay.
Like I know that it exists. I couldn't point one out in a crowd.
So it's not like a typical like sewing machine. It's like it does. I'm trying to think. Like the inside of your clothes, like your shirt, that seam.
Oh, right.
That's like a serger.
Yeah. I worked at Mr. Formal for some years. And so
I do remember going and visiting you. Sewing there,
yeah. It was a lot of just like the most half-assed way I could sew back then. But I don't know. I'm sure I had interactions with these things.
Yeah. I'd have to like show you. I don't really know. Like, obviously, I'm totally YouTube learned.
No, that's fine.
YouTube taught. So I don't know like really, the terms and stuff. I'm just kind of like...
Turns out you don't really have to get the job done when you
right?
Need it,
Exactly. Yeah. So oh my gosh, I can't even explain to you how frustrating self-teaching yourself how to do that though. It took, because I don't know, not like things come easy to me, but in the past, like things just came easy to me. I can do it. And this, like threading the machine even, like it would take me 45 minutes to thread the machine, and I would be like saying choice words, which my husband now like laughs at me because he's like, I thread it in like 30 seconds, if that, maybe 15 seconds. And he's like, remember that one time?
When you lost your shit and you threw the thing out the window?
Oh, literally. Like not physically out the window, but I was like raging, like postpartum, like, yeah. So,
poor Jake.
Right? So yeah, it started during my maternity leave, and that's when like, I remember I didn't sell right away. Obviously, I can't sell shit when I don't know how to do it. So it took me, I want to say a couple months of trying to like trial and error with fabrics and things. And thankfully I had like a little model. I had like a tiny little baby.
Just putting him in and out of clothes.
Yeah.
Please let me sleep, Mom.
Yeah, he didn't fight me. So I'm like, oh, nice. Cool. So I got to kind of like, trial and error, like what fabric, like material that I liked.
Do you remember your first, like, your very first designs, the ones where you're like, this is awesome, where you like made it, it was done, and you're like, whoa, this is
oh my gosh.
This.
I can't even tell you like the success. So at first I didn't buy any patterns, which that was really stupid of me.
Okay.
But I tried to like make my own patterns. I didn't want to spend money like on patterns, and patterns are like $10 each. So you don't want to like go too far into it. Right. I don't know. At the time I was like, I'm just
experimenting, trying to learn how to do it.
Yeah. So I would cut up pairs that I bought like from a store, and I would like trace them and make my own patterns. So I didn't really like, YouTube taught me like obviously certain things, but when it came to my pattern that I created, like it was all trial and error. And so I remember like, and it's like funny to think about, but I remember like when I made, I'm like, this is it.
This
like,
is the one.
Oh my God, I'm onto something. Like I got it. Like, and once you made one, it's like, okay, you know how to do it now.
Do you remember the item? What was it, like pants? Or
it was pants. So that's what I started out with. And now I'm making like, I can sew like sweatshirts and crew necks. And I mean, if I have a pattern, I can really sew, I feel like anything,
Right.
especially like baby clothes related. It's just a lot more helpful when you have a pattern.
Of course. And nothing wrong with that. I mean, I use templates in my music production stuff and my DJing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'll use templates, or if I'm feeling like I can't grasp what kind of set I should be making, I'll kind of listen to like someone else's 30-minute mix, and I'll be like, oh yeah, okay, let's try to get that kind of vibe within 30 minutes for the show tonight.
So I feel like that's kind of, so I buy my pattern, I cut it out, I make one of them, and I'm like, okay, this is what I don't like about it. So then I completely tweak it. So I do end up making it into like my own. But at that time when I had first started, I didn't have any patterns. And so I remember, you know, I got pretty fast at it, confident, and then I would break a needle or something, and then I'd go back to YouTube because I'm like, how do I change a needle? like,
all right.
Yeah, or I'd have to switch, which for a while I hated changing out the thread in my machine. So when you're sewing like a black shirt, you want to change to black thread and not white thread, or it'll show through. And like just the different like settings for like how loose your stitch is, and there's like so much behind it that
oh yeah, it's not super simple.
No, at first I was like, oh, I could probably do it. But over like it is taken me so long. I'm still learning. And that was Lincoln's 3.5.
How old was he when you were just trying, like first starting, when you at this time when you had like these awesome pants that you made? Like these are so cool.
Couple weeks old.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, once I got like the idea, I was like, okay, I'm going for it.
And then you just started going to town and making 1 million pairs of pants.
Yeah. And it took me a while before I like would sell. I started sewing, say, May 2016. I'm like, when's my kid's birthday? Now that you have two kids, I'm like, okay, this one's 18, this one's 16. Mm-hmm. But so 2016, May 2016, I didn't start selling stuff until August 2016. And I remember I was like, okay, I'm going to make a website instead of just like, post on Instagram or Facebook. It's not really back when like that was super popular. I was like, okay, I'm going to do like my website instead of doing like an Etsy. Why wouldn't I do Etsy? It's so much easier. It's
weird to also think about it is way different now, just in those few years.
Yeah.
Like those things you are talking about are relevant to point out that it wasn't like that actually.
No, I mean, now you can like post anything like, I made a sugar scrub. Does anybody want to buy it? And people will buy it.
Yeah.
Like back then, I don't know. I guess I didn't really try, but
no,
it wasn't. It wasn't really like that.
It would have been kind of scrolled past. It wouldn't be.
Yeah,
so open.
For sure.
Just a different world.
For sure. But yeah, I remember my pants. I like look at them now and I'm like, oh my gosh, because I still have like some of the first pairs that I made, and just to remind myself where I came from.
Just hang them on the wall. Yeah. You sucked. No, you don't.
Right? It's like, okay, Taya, like. Yeah, I've came very far, but I've also sewn so many items.
Yeah, I feel like you'll text me all the time. You'll be listening to the podcast and you'll text me like, I'm doing my sewing tonight. You're sewing
every night.
Literally every night for
every
hours
night.
And hours.
Yeah, and once I've tried to like wake up, okay, I'm going to go to sleep early. I'm going to wake up at like, 4:30 and I'm going to sew until my kids wake up 7:30, 8, or the days that I work, like I'm going to sew until I have to start getting ready. So then I can put kind of like a time limit on how long I'm sewing. But once you get into that, like it's so hard to stop. So that's why I choose to sew at night, put my kids down, and then I just like listen to my podcasts.
Yeah. Have your own time.
Yeah. Like that's I just sew until basically I'll walk to bed and I'll just plop on my bed. Right. And Jake's like, I'm like, I work myself until I physically have to go to bed.
Yep. And then you just keep sewing in your dreams a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. And then I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't get this done. But I'm trying to switch my mindset.
So jumping from when you decided to go all in, because at the beginning here, we're talking about you're just like, you're making it for your kid. You're making it because you're like, this is pretty cool, but you weren't thinking like, this is I'm going to quit my job soon and do this.
Oh gosh, no. This, honestly, I've always been the kind of person, there's some people out there, which I'm not like judgmental at all. Like if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, do you, that's awesome. You're so fortunate to be able to do that kind of thing. For me, I am such a workaholic that I would drive myself crazy if I was a stay-at-home mom with nothing to do. Which granted, taking care of your children it's a full-time job.
Right.
Full-time job. But for me, I've got to have something. I can't just sit.
Do you think all like the spaces in between, so people in the same position, the spaces in between where they're like, trying to get a couple minutes to relax and watch TV or grab a bite or whatever it is, like when we're trying to always get these moments in between of people raising their kids, I think it is very beneficial what you do rather than trying to distract or like going on social media and numbing or going on TV and just like watching TV for a few hours while the kids are sleeping. I know that probably feels really great. Once in a while you should totally do it. I'm sure you do. But I think what's even more healing to us is to feel more calibrated to our real self. And you do that well by sitting down.
It's me time.
Yeah.
It's
kind of like
hobby.
A flow state if you think about it. I mean, it's for you.
It's weird. Like I get so much joy out of it. Like it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm going to go work another 6-hour shift, 7-hour shift at night after I put my kids down for bed. It's like, I look forward to that time.
Recharging in a way.
Yeah. And I listen to my podcast. Like that's the time that I listen to my podcasts. I used to watch like YouTube videos and stuff while sewing, but I've never really been like a TV show watcher or like a movie or anything like that. So like those people, like they get their me time. They drink a glass of rosé on the couch or wine or something like that. I just fall asleep. I get bored. I'm not.
TV is sleep time. That's what I think.
Yeah. In my couch. Do you have the same couch as I do?
Is it the same one?
Uh-huh.
Oh, nice.
Elam's home
so comfy. Shout out to Elam.
Yes. I just fall asleep. So for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to go. That's my me time. That's my hobby. That's even if I'm not even like making money, like that's, I genuinely enjoy doing it. And so, the
art of like practicing something and nonstop. Obviously having the drive of like, cool, I could make this a business. This would be really cool. But just you notice this feels nice. This isn't exactly what I figured on doing, it's baby clothes. What the heck? But, but here I am,
it was definitely,
it feels fulfilling.
At first I was like, okay, I'm going to work my full-time job and I'm going to do this as a little side gig just for extra money.
Right.
And it was never, I did think like, okay, that would be cool to go down to like part-time or something, if this does grow to be something. But I never, ever, ever thought that I would quit my job and do this full time. And guess what? I'm on week 2.
Heck yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's jump to here. Where you're at now. You started out just making a couple clothes and now you just got a store. A location.
It'll be, a location outside of my house. So I will say 2019, well, honestly, I've never been able to like set boundaries. Since starting this business, it's like once I've never taken a break or anything. I've had another baby since then. I was sewing for him the night before I had him because he didn't have anything to wear in the hospital. Because I was sewing for everyone else's kids. So I was sewing the night before I had him. And then I get home and after Ledger. So Ledger was born in 2018. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take like a month off or something. It's a piece of me. It's like I couldn't take time away, even though I probably, looking back, I should have. But I was like, nope, I'm right back to it. And like I said, newborn stage. Granted, I had he was 2 years old when I had Ledger, so almost 2.5. So it was a little bit busier, but it's like that was my me time. Once both Lincoln and Ledger went to sleep, I'm gonna sew a couple things. Right. Although newborn stage, they're up every couple hours. And so I couldn't stay up like 7 hours a night, but I'd stay up normally until like his first wake up, which would be like 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. and then I would feed them, lay them down, and then I would go to bed. So, yeah, I've never been able to really like set boundaries with sewing. 2019 though was very busy. Just in all aspects of my life.
Did you start just like letting it rip itself? Like let's see what happens. Who wants orders? I'll make them.
Yeah. I mean, I would launch something. I'd be selling something almost every single day. Something or multiple items. I was doing, events, but I had 2 babies at home. Like Lincoln wasn't even 3 yet, and I had Ledger, and that transition from 1 kid to 2 kids is hard. Like I think I don't know, I underestimated that. 1 kid, you feel like supermom. I know for me, I was like, oh, I got this. I could have 10 kids. Like Lincoln was a good baby though. But once 2 kids came, your 2-year-old was, roller coaster of adjusting. You have a new baby. It was a lot. On top of me working outside of the home. And, I can't give up my business. So at that time, I feel like if I wasn't serious about doing this, I would stop doing it or like take a break. But I couldn't. Like, I think about it all the time. Like, I think, oh my gosh, my customers, like what are they going to think if I just don't, What if I just fall off?
I think they're going to be okay.
I know, but my heart is like,
of course,
like my customers, like they are so loyal to me. I have like an amazing little group of, and they're all, moms. Some of them obviously like they buy for gifts and they're just supporters. Like any like, share, comment, anything like that is amazing. But a lot of the people like I've gotten to like be friends with through this business because they're moms too. And obviously, you're not a mom, but it's weird. Like when you become a mom, you lose like a lot of friends. You can't just drop everything and go, do things anymore.
Right.
And I know like everyone's busy in life, but it's like when you're a mom, it's like it's a
huge change.
Oh my gosh, I can't even like explain to you. It's an amazing change though. You don't feel the need to like, but friendship wise, it gets sad and depressing. And for this, like with this business, I found such like a fast, like quick community because they were all moms that were purchasing from me. And it was weird because it was like, oh my gosh.
I have mom friends now.
Yes, I'm like migrating towards mom friends. And it's like then we would have play dates together and things like that. So, my loyal customers, it was hard for me to like drop off because then it's like, oh my gosh, like they're loyal to me. I have to be loyal to them.
Yeah, too.
Yeah.
I understand that. We were talking about though, like me when I went off social media, I wasn't like super planned about it. I was just going through my emotional things out loud. I just had to. I was telling you, like I missed out on a ton of gigs. Like I was like, I'm off social media, trying to get just better, feel better. And I have a DJ company, and like people wanting me to DJ their weddings and DJ this thing and that thing. Those messages just got left, the last year.
Yeah.
And like at first I did have like, I was like stressed about it. I was like, I can't get rid of social media. I can't, like, that's my business and what are they going to think and blah, blah, blah. But I think that the world is a bit more understanding now of not having to be connected 24/7.
I will say like when I announced like, I'm going to take a break to spend time with my family, or I'm still like, my website's still closed. And it's been closed since, I think I closed it like the 19th of December. So it's been almost a month. And people are like very supportive about it. They're like, cool, yeah. That's so awesome that you're spending time with your boys and things like that. And it is a big transition. Like over the last month, it's been a big transition business-wise and quitting my job and things like that. So I'm just trying to, and we're about to sell our house. So it's like, everything. I have a lot of things that I'm still doing.
You just don't really enjoy half-assing anything.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. And that's one thing I'm working on because, what are you on the Enneagram?
I feel like I was like a 9-1 or a 1-9.
Okay.
9,
so like a peacemaker.
I'm INFJ on the Myers-Briggs
scale,
if that helps.
So I'm an achiever, and I'm listening to like podcasts. I got a book. I haven't read it yet. I listened to the audibles, so while I'm sewing. And I'm trying to work on, though, since I am an achiever, I need to slow down and be content with where I'm at.
Right.
Like, that's a huge thing for me, is it's always like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? I mean, there was one year in Jake and I's relationship, was it 2015? I graduated from school. Or no, we bought our first house. I graduated from school. We got married. We got pregnant. Or I got pregnant. And then Jake moved up in his job. We bought like a new car. Like it was like by the end of that year, I was like, oh my gosh, like we did a lot.
We did a lot of stuff.
Then the next year is like, okay, what's next? And that's just my mindset. And I'm really trying to like work on that because I need to, for my well-being, I need to be like, okay.
I think it's a lot of us, man. A lot of us like we're not too far apart in age. It's just kind of how we've been brought up. We're always just like, here, kitty, come on, what's next? Come on. Like we're always like, you're going to high school so you can do good in college. You're going to, this thing before this thing. Yeah. And you got to remember, oh yeah, I'm building life right now. And it's enjoyable. I think that finding.
For me though, when I don't have something that I'm working towards, I fall into a really big slump. Like. Yep.
Yeah, I can't just be stag.
No, or I feel like I'm a piece of shit.
Right, but you
I'm
have
not,
to.
But
yeah, but you have to be able to look at what you just named. I mean, you guys had an incredible few years, and you accomplished a lot that not a ton of people around your age and with all the things going on have accomplished. So you do have to be able to find things, and you are getting better at it, and you're working on these things. We text about it all the time. At like, oh shoot, okay. Like what Jake and I have done is great. And like
sure.
Like what we've built is great, and this is wonderful. And almost like, as corny as it sounds, like just like let's take a mental picture of this time in my life.
For sure.
And I think you are getting better about that. We're kind of sending like Tony Robbins stuff. Back and forth. And
yes. I am getting better. That's one of my, when I am sewing, like it's nice because I get to work on my self too, because I'm listening to audibles and things like that. And so that's one thing though that I'm like, I need to be content with. So it is taking me a little bit, like I have a website launch planned, and I was totally hoping that website launch would already be launched by now. But I'm like, you know what? I'm getting my space figured out. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I got a couple samples of new fabrics in because I'm, I do like bamboo fabric, and so it's higher quality washwear, things like that. Like you can wash because babies have blowouts and their food, and they get stained up like crazy. So I just got in the mail the last 2 days samples of fabrics, and it's like I'm just gonna take the time to work out the little things, and then I'm going to do this website launch versus before I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel the stress like and need to do a website launch right now.
Well, and sometimes you accompany stuff with, so like the podcast, I'm like, because I have my website and it's like half-assed done and it's under construction, but I would not even post my podcast because I'm like, well, I don't want to post it until my website's done because I want it to live there. But it's like, well, people can go to Spotify and can go to Apple Music and go and listen to it. But a lot of times I would use like building this big thing as my failure to even start. So at least you've kept yourself going.
Yeah. And each day, especially now that I'm not working, I keep like going back to that because it's like crazy how much stuff I'm getting done. Each day I have, like I looked at almost 10 spaces the last 2 days with my kids. And it's like,
getting them in and out of the car.
It was pretty easy, honestly, because it's like without work and stuff, it's like my patience, everything.
And
I'm like
happy.
I'm happy, and it's doing something like for my future that I'm so stoked about. So it's like I don't even care if it's pouring rain and I'm getting my kids out of the car. Like they're having so much fun. Like let's stop in puddles on the way there. Like
I think that moment is, I mean, that's a huge thing if you think about it. A lot of us, we do get so caught up in just dredging in our sand. Just like pushing through it. And it is nice. You're able, dude, even just going to check out these spots is so good because everything combined to what I'm doing here makes me feel good and fulfilled.
For sure.
That even that, it's raining and feels great.
Exactly. And important. I think over, I keep saying this too, 2019 just was not like, it was we still had successes and good times and stuff, but as far as like my mental state, like I got stretched so thin.
Yeah.
And it was mainly like I did it to myself. I was working. I had expectations at work. I was taking on extra things. Like I taught a couple parenting classes.
Could you describe kind of what, outside of Clover+Tribe, before Clover+Tribe, for your degree work? What exactly is it? Can you expand on what you were doing at work?
Yeah, so my degree is human development and psychology. I have a minor in psychology, and I would work with at-risk youth, so students that were at risk for mainly dropping out of school. Okay. And so it was a lot of, I seen a lot of horrible things, but I loved being like that person that got down and talked one-on-one, like, dude, what's going on? Versus being another, authoritative figure in somebody else's life or in that student's life saying, come on, if you're not going to graduate, then you're going to be a piecer the rest of your life and things like that. So I loved my job, but where I'm at in my just motherhood, and I think if I didn't have my business, I'm like, oh, I could have totally stayed in that position.
Yeah, you're naturally great at it.
I love it. And my company actually like offered me this like big new program that they have in the works to be drug and alcohol. So I would run like a drug and alcohol treatment facility inside the school, in the local school district. And that was so cool and an amazing opportunity. And they wanted me to do it so bad. They wanted to send me to a training in California in February. And at first I was like, yes, like that's amazing. Huge pay increase. Like I'm still on school district schedule, but I think you do like a couple weeks, because obviously treatment doesn't stop in the summertime. And so you have like part-time hours in the summer. You still get like winter break, Christmas break, things like that. But you're a drug and alcohol counselor within the school district that I graduated at. Like that's so cool. Because I do feel like, this community, I've moved away and I've came back, and it's my community. Like I'm here to like give back to my community. It's cool. I love it.
It's cool getting older, and because I feel like I didn't like hate where I came from by any means, but I just had like I was just kind of a punk kid. I didn't like hate it from an outside perspective, but I just didn't really even like talk about it. Like I was just like, oh, this is where I live, whatever.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can be a part of the community.
Or everyone, I'm sure you can relate. Like everyone's like, oh, I can't wait to get out of here. Can't wait to get out of here. And that was me. Like I moved away. Granted, I had like my boyfriend or significant other, now husband, here. So I was like, I'm most likely going to come back to Kelso.
Of course.
But a huge piece of me was like, this is my community. Like, and there's so many kids, especially, that need help, like in our community. And so that opportunity came about, I want to say over the summer, about September. And it was going to be a lot of work for me. Like we are starting up this program, and from the ground up, myself and like my team basically. And it's very, what's the word? High burnout. Like being drug and alcohol, like, and some people, it's funny how like blinded they are to it. It's like, oh, are there really 6th graders doing drugs and alcohol? Like, are they drinking? Or I'm like, yeah, I had a student seriously have a dirty UA for meth in the 6th grade.
That's insane.
Like it's bad, and it's bad everywhere. I'm not saying it's just our community, but myself, like this community has offered me a lot. And so I feel the need to come back and help. Right. But around that time that, my business was going great. I sew normally like 20 to 30 hours a week on top of working. And so I'm spread pretty thin, especially I have 2 kids at home that, total mama's boys. Like I do everything for them. My husband's amazing, but my boys just want me. Like they want to be glued to me. And so at that point I was like, gosh, taking on this new adventure, right. I would love to do it, and it's a huge pay raise and stuff, but is that where my heart's at right now? I don't know. So I think kind of around that time is when I just kind of mentally like...
You took a look at the momentum that you had gained, I think.
Yeah. And just everything, while my thought was, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to balance it all. Also, taking this new position, I would have to go back to school. So...
More schooling.
On top of it all, I would, and it's only like 9 months or so, but it's night classes away from my boys. So that was one more thing that it was like, okay, can I balance it all? And everyone around me is like, you're amazing. You can balance it all. And I'm like, I probably could balance it all. Yeah. But my self-care
yeah, see, that's the thing is you got to take a look at it.
Would completely be
everybody
buried.
else around you always be like, you're amazing, you're awesome, you can do this, and you're like, okay, I can do it. I mean, but you got to be able to take a look at yourself and be like, what's best for me, what's best for my boys, what's best for my Jake, what's best for my family.
Exactly. And so at that time I was just like, I don't know if I can. So I brought it to my husband's attention. I was like, babe, I really don't think, like, I don't know if I can do it. He's like, baby, whatever you know, Jake.
Oh, of course, he's on your side.
Oh my gosh, he's so sweet too. And he's so like, I'll support you in anything that you do. And I was like, I got this crazy idea. Like, what if I were to quit my job? Mm-hmm. And he's like, baby, I know. He's like so sweet. He's like, the greatest. Baby, I know anything that you do, you'll set your mind to. And so I was like, okay, I mean, I guess I'm thinking about it. So we thought about it for probably a good 3 months before I don't know if it kind of had to do with like deep down I wanted to do it. And so when I would become overwhelmed, I would just like lose control. And I almost am like, I want this so bad. So it's like, I'm like making myself not be able to balance it all. Does that make sense?
No, yeah. You're almost like self-sabotaging.
Yes. And it's like almost to the point where it's like, because I want this.
Mm-hmm. You got to let yourself have it at some point.
Yeah.
Right?
And so the last couple months of the year were just hard. It was my busiest season for sewing. I coordinated because, why wouldn't I coordinate a small shop Saturday pop-up in the middle of all of this stuff?
Right.
I had...
Were you 9 months pregnant just by chance at this point?
No, anyway? Thank goodness. Okay. I made it through 2019 without getting pregnant. I don't know if you remember my post, my New Year's resolution for going into 2019 was to not get pregnant.
It's a good start.
So, because I had been pregnant...
I have faith in you.
Like for like 4 years. Yeah.
Are you guys planning to have more kids? Have you talked about that yet?
I do want one more, but I want to... Jake's like gonna listen to this and be like,
we'll see.
Because it's very, very busy with my boys. They are, I mean, balls to the wall. Like they're crazy.
Is there anything like your brothers were?
Right. So you remember my little brother? It's like having 2 of those. And they're only a little under 2.5 years apart. And so I'm hoping this year is going to be the year of them getting along because it's been just a transition for all of us. But I do want one more. So that was another thing when thinking like about future, do I want to dive into this new career when ultimately I do want to have another baby in the next couple years?
Well, you certainly can't have it all figured out right at this second. That's for sure. I mean, it's good that you think ahead and you have to think of things as more than just. And I know I can't plan
okay, I'm going to have a baby. Yeah. We're going to conceive on August 2nd.
Right.
It doesn't
the full
work
moon strikes.
Yeah. It doesn't work like that. But we do want another, but I need to work on myself first.
Right.
And like we are like, yes, that's going to be our last baby. We want to have everything kind of slowed down. And our boys do, I feel like each, like Lincoln and Ledger both like low key kind of want to be like only child or like only children. They have like only child syndrome is what it's called. Oh my gosh. So I'm like, hey, they need like a little extra time to, have each other and like before we have another kid.
Yeah.
I don't want to rush it. So I don't care how far apart like Ledger and our last one are. I just want to enjoy everything.
I think that's a great start. And then, wherever life brings you after that, that's what's going to happen. I think that I really enjoy you're building yourself into, you're this wonderful person. You have all these things that you've accomplished, but you're building yourself into, you're like, now how do I be a business owner? It's like this new thing really. And you've been, you listen to like audiobooks and you check out like the motivational YouTube stuff and you listen to all these like things. I think it's just super cool how you're taking on the new role of business owner, but you're like, I'm not going to half-ass that either. Like don't think that this thing that's different than what I've been working towards is going to go any different. So you're improving yourself. What are you doing? What are some little things that you're doing that seem to be improving you and making you slow down?
So my kind of sentence of the year kind of thing is because I've always been like working myself to the core. So I'm like, you know what? This is my year to work smarter, not harder. That's like my thing.
Love that one.
And if I have to, so one thing I'm like, okay, if I raise my prices $2, $1, something like that, like making little changes that it's like, okay, if I do that, it'll be a little less sewing. And it really won't make a difference to people that it's $1, So things like that. And now I'm going full force. I just got a space. I'm thinking about, doing like pop-ups monthly. And because now I'm also the person that I always have to have an income for not for myself, but I have to be contributing to my family.
Get that, yeah.
And it's like a thing in me. It's like, okay, I'm going to pay for this, this, this. And so now that I quit my job and I don't have a paycheck every last day of the month, it's a little scary because it's like, wow, now this side gig money.
Yep.
I actually have to, be making money now. So I'm going full force into planning my finances. And I got like a business tax person. I hired her.
Very nice.
Because I don't know. That's why I've always kept it like a side gig, a hobby. Because I'm like, I don't want to have to do any of that.
More money, the financial, the taxes, all that.
I'm not that kind of person. I rather do the work. I rather sew my fingers off. I don't want to have to do any of that. And so a friend of mine that is also a business owner, he was at the Small Shop Saturday event with me. And he was like, hey, you've got to, if you're going to do this, like you've got to hire like somebody. And then you have all that time to sew.
Right.
And they're doing that for a small chunk of, money each month. But it'll be way less stressful.
Yeah, it's good balance there.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay. And that has been awesome because I'm starting this business. I got my business license. I have write-offs now, things like that I'm like, okay, I have no idea what to do.
Right.
She's taking care of all that. So that's one thing that's a lot less stressful on me going forward is she's handling that. I'm setting boundaries. So like I used to sew until 3, 4 in the morning. I'm like, okay, I need to at least get 8 hours of sleep. Obviously, I have like my own list of like personal self-care resolutions.
Right.
And I'm trying to go one at a time so they actually happen versus looking at the whole list. But that's one thing
Not too daunting.
Yes, that's one thing. I'm like, I need more sleep because I am a very anxious person when I wake up in the morning if I don't get sleep. And I function off of like little sleep.
Yeah, you don't want to make that a habit though.
But like I function off of a couple hours of sleep and I do fine. But I know like eventually I'm not even going to say that is going to catch up. That has caught up to me.
Right.
To the point where my mental breakdown in December was like, that's one thing I have to change is I need more sleep. I need to set boundaries. I need to, every chance I get at home, I don't need to be running up and sewing stuff. And that's one thing, like having the business at my house, it was like, okay, they're sitting for a second. I'm going to run up and sew really quick.
Right.
I'm just going to get one order done really quick. Or, they're doing this. I'm going to run up really quick. My husband's got the kids for a second. I'm going to do this versus just being like present in, because I can already tell like they are appreciating the happier mom that I am. Like the more patience. It's so cool. Like obviously it's been like a couple weeks, so I can't say, oh my gosh, it's like life changing. But so far it is
it's
like
pretty profound at the beginning, I'm sure.
Yes, they are happier, and it's like I'm not running up, and I'm not my patience is just. It's crazy.
In your attention span of like, I always talk about attention spans with our phones. Like you're talking to someone and then all of a sudden you're pulled out of it by a text message. I mean, even just the thoughts of like, oh crap, I need to go get this done. You're hanging out with your kid, but in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I need to run upstairs really quick.
So that's
it's just less presence. Yeah,
exactly.
you're right.
Like I'm like, especially bedtime, rushing bedtime was one thing that I did with both the boys. Like they would be like, Mommy, snuggle me. Like Lincoln would be like, Mommy, snuggle me. And I'm like, Bubba, I can't tonight. I'm sorry. I love you. Bye. And why? It's because I had to go sew because I had orders, pending orders.
So is that, that's kind of like in a long way, like putting someone else's family before yours in a strange way, right?
Yeah. Ultimately like putting, especially my business, like, and I was gone working all day. Like he hadn't seen me. I spent from 5 o'clock to, let's say 8 o'clock because they'd go to bed at 8 o'clock. 5 to 8, they're all like, I'm all theirs, but really that's only like 3 hours. It's like, I'm like, Bubba, I'm going to snuggle you and I'm going to fall asleep in your bed.
Cool.
Like,
why not? That's great.
And that's so nice. Being able to just set those boundaries, like, and I hope I stick to it.
Oh, I'm sure you will. It's things come and go. Maybe for a few weeks you're not going to be able to, but just being able to be as you are right now and be like, okay, I'm noticing that I'm doing those things.
Yeah.
I kind of want to slow them down.
Yeah. And I'm pretty self-aware, with things like over the last year. I'm like, okay, this has brought me to this. Like, I'm pretty self-aware of things. Like, I don't let myself hit too deep. I make sure to like, I notice the things. Does that make sense?
No,
I'm
yeah,
trying
totally.
to think of like, I'm like, okay, I need to make these changes as soon as possible or I might have a total mental breakdown.
Right.
And so, yeah, that, I'm trying to think what else. What was the question again?
I was just asking about things that you do to get better and improve and become a business owner.
Yeah. So setting boundaries, setting like set kind of schedules is my plan. So I will be at my office space 3 days a week, at least. I'd say like 3 days a week where I'm doing business. And that's far more than I've ever gotten. Right. Normally I just do it after hours, after bedtime. And so I'm like, wow, what can I get done in 3 days?
Right.
Like, wow.
You can just get in the zone there too.
Right. And I do understand like that was another stressor for me was childcare. So I understand things are going to come up if my baby's sick or something. I might not sew that day, but I might flex it for like when Jake's home on the weekend a day. I might flex it and he stays home with the kids while I go sew that day to make up for it.
Right.
So I think just communicating like with him on like, my schedule for the week too, because he can kind of help me like hold me accountable a little bit.
Right.
So I don't overwork myself. Because he's totally like, I want to just chill and watch a movie. Right. And I'm like,
We got that balance though. That's what it is with Shaylee. Like, because I kind of find myself like, well, I'm going to go edit a podcast. And I'll like run downstairs. And
or like you do it on the couch. That's what I do.
Well, sometimes I'll do that, but I'm not good at distractions. Like if she starts talking to me, I'll be like, like I'll be like, I need my space. I'm kind of prissy about it, but just it's okay. Like we're here to live this life. We want to accomplish great things, and that's awesome, and we're going to.
Yes,
but
definitely.
Slow down and enjoy your life in between. Taya, I did want to ask you, Clover+Tribe, the name. I was curious about how you even came across that.
Yeah. So when I was 9 months pregnant, because I knew that I wanted to eventually start selling things. But I didn't obviously it took months for me to get to that point, but I was like, I need a name. Like I want a name and because I think a piece of me is like, I always wanted to be kind of like a little business owner or something. Right. And at that time it was kind of like, it was before a lot of people started doing it, but it was kind of the beginning of it where people were doing like little side gigs and stuff. And so I sat down, and my family's super Irish. And I just remember writing out kind of a list of words that kind of described like my family or my upbringing or like my favorite words, things like that. Yeah, it was weird. I had no kids at the time, so I had like a lot more like time to just do those kind of things.
Just sit down and draw those things.
Yeah. So I sat and I made like a pretty long list. I remember it like vividly in my head. It was on a spiral notebook. And then I knew for some weird reason that I wanted a plus sign in the middle. Like I want a plus sign. And so I had like a plus and then I had another list. And so I knew I wanted it to be like 2 words with a plus sign, which is kind of weird because Clover+Tribe, like it has the plus sign in the middle. So people always think it's Clover and Tribe. Which I've kind of adapted. I'm like, Clover and Tribe. Yeah, that's fine too. Yeah. And so, but at the time it was like, okay, I'm going to have one word and then the other. So I picked tribe first because I'm like, kids clothes. Like it ultimately takes a tribe to raise a kid, to raise a family, things like that. You need your tribe. And it almost has turned into be like my little community of moms that I have. Like that's my tribe. And so I love that I picked that. I will never rebrand because I love my name. Right. But so I picked that and then I had my little plus sign and then I was going through all these words and it just kind of stuck to me. I was like, Clover and Tribe, like Clover+Tribe. That's perfect. And so I remember I like highlighted it and I was like, okay, I'm going for that. And I got on Etsy and I looked at little logos. I remember I bought like a $4 logo. Cute. And I have like I have had somebody revamp my logo and stuff since then. That was a little investment that I did for myself last year. But yeah, that's how I got my name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Thank you.
That's cool. I at the beginning of when I did my name, it was I think I mentioned it in another podcast. It was technically a lyric from a Lupe Fiasco song. But it was like in the middle of the verse or something, but it just stood out to me. And I don't really even particularly remember, but it's funny every time someone's like, "What's Junkyard Love?" And I started
I love the way you explained it in that podcast. I listened to it.
Well, every time I explain it, it's like kind of different, I feel like.
Yeah.
But people are like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Now. So
because I didn't understand your name at first. I mean, I liked it. It's not like I was like, oh, what's that? But I was like, oh yeah, Junkyard Love. And then when you explained it in that podcast, I was like, wow. That's awesome.
I don't even remember what I said when I explained it.
Like the car parts in the junkyard.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. That's an explanation.
So each thing, like somebody's gonna take one piece out of it.
Right. Yeah. The parts in the junkyard are not by themselves. They're not useful, but for one person, these parts are particularly
exactly what they are looking for. Yeah. I was like, wow.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool, letting yourself, kind of dream, we hear stuff like that, right? We always hear like dream and it's almost like, see the annotation I just put on it with my voice. We almost kind of want to make fun of it in a way, right? We almost want to call it corny, but I think that it really is important for the way our brains work to have kind of like a goal, like you're like, I could do this, you know what? Mm-hmm. Like, heck yeah. And then you have awesome people in your life, like your mom who was willing to help you. And Jake obviously is like, hell yeah, baby, let's do it.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah. It's really cool to take, ideas and what ifs and turn them into.
I think especially with our like podcasts and our the motivational. I mean, when I even take like a couple days off of not listening to something, it's weird.
Right.
I'm like, and then when I listen, I'm just like, oh my gosh, the motivation. I'm like, let's kill it. Like it's weird. We were talking about that yesterday.
I think when I wake up so I'm on a YouTube break right now, I was telling you, but for a long time, and something I do probably more days than I don't, just for the last like year and a half, is I wake up and within probably 5 to 10 minutes, I have some sort of like motivational something going on in the background. Like you can go on YouTube and type motivational, and they put a new one up pretty much every day. It's Tony Robbins with some music behind it and whatever. It's cool because it kind of like locks you into that momentum of moving forward.
Yeah. And that is also like something that I take time for myself is when because we have a DVD player in our car. And so I'm always listening to Cars or Monsters, Inc. or Toy Story or something. Like I never get to listen to music or podcasts like in my car, which a lot of people, that's where they listen to it at.
Right, yeah,
I don't because I have to listen to, I can spit quotes from all of those movies because I'm just listening to it. But
all the lines.
Yeah. Jake thinks it's funny because when we get in the car, it's like we'll say stuff when it's going on.
You guys are acting it out. Yeah. The movie's not even on. The kids are just like, you guys, shut up.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like if I get like 10 minutes to myself to like go run to Target and back, I'll listen to something because it's like my break away from the kids. I get like same thing with like going up to my sew room and having that time. It's like when I'm driving in the car, it's like when I'm listening to my inspirational
it's not Mike Lazowski.
Yes, literally. That's what's in my we upgraded to Monsters University.
Oh, that's a great choice too.
Yeah. So
it still seems kind of old at this point, but I mean
yeah,
kids don't really know what's like super new.
You know what his favorite movie is? Rookie of the Year. Do you know that one?
Yeah.
I want to say it's from like 1987 or 1990 or something. It had a baseball on it, and it was a $5 movie at Target. And one of the times I let him pick something out, and I was like, "Oh, $5."
Epic.
And he loved it because it was baseball. I literally had that in the car DVD player for 6 months, replaying.
No.
Like Jake and I can quote it word for word.
I don't know. These are the things that when people tell me about, I'm like, I'm not ready to be a parent. I'll lose my mind. Like I have to play certain songs like 6 times a year at clubs, and I'll be like,
you're like, duh. Yeah, Lincoln. He like when he gets obsessed with a movie, we watch it like over and over and over and over, like The Grinch. And it wasn't just for Christmas. It's been like months. We watched The Grinch.
You're like, can we just at least do a different season?
Yeah,
we'll bring it back around next year.
That's the nice thing is we went from the old Grinch to the new Grinch.
Was this the one with the Tyler the Creator? Like he had a soundtrack.
Well, is it Kid Cudi or Tyler? Is it?
It might be Kid Cudi. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's my jam because I'm like Mr. Grinch.
Like, oh yeah.
It's like
yeah, that one was cool. We actually, I didn't fully watch it, but I watched a little bit of it as Shaylee was watching it.
So we can kind of go back and forth, but it's still like the Grinch.
Yeah.
So that's about as crazy as he's
getting.
It's
not being able to. I mean, but now, dude, you got your own store, or your own storefront rather, and you could work and have it rocking through the speakers.
What should we call it? Like is it an office or like a studio or
loft?
A loft. It is upstairs.
Yeah, I think an office probably is office, appropriate. Or
like my office space.
Studio sounds cool though. And notice I called this a studio, and it is a recording studio, but it just feels cool to say studio.
Yeah, like my studio.
I feel like a rapper. Sometimes I say stew.
You're
I'm in the stew. I'm in the studio.
Yeah, hey. I think my office.
Damn it.
Oh shoot.
Chair, man. I need to get a new chair.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, do you think I don't know if you thought about it yet, as the boys are getting older, like say you're like whatever's happening with Clover+Tribe, you're just maintaining whatever. As the boys get older, you think you're going to just continue, like the clothes are going to get a little bigger and bigger? What's going to happen?
I don't know because I have thought about that. Like, will I want to sew like when my kids are bigger? But honestly, my kids are the ones that get like the prints that don't sell. Because it's like I'm sewing for everyone else. And because they even say like people are like, oh my gosh, your boys probably just have like the best wardrobe. And I'm like, well, Ledger has Lincoln's hand-me-downs when it's like I could easily
and you're like, and the stitching on those is awful.
It is.
Poor. He's like, Mom, my leg's cold. The breeze is coming through.
Which like I could easily sew for him, but it's like I have all these orders. And so I honestly don't see myself like stopping because like they're bigger. Just a piece of me is like, well, I don't know. I'll just have to see where it goes. Because it's like when they're in school, like I could go back to work. But it's like, what if this is going to be my work?
Well, and you don't even have to have it planned out. That's the greatest part is you can really leave it up to that. Like, what if? Like, I'm going to see where this goes and I'm going to keep this momentum.
If you would have told me, so what am I, 3.5 years later, that I was quitting my job to do this full time, I would have been like, did something like crazy happen? Like, why?
You're like, is everything okay in my life in the future?
Yeah. If someone would have told me like, this is going to happen, I would have been like, what? Because it never... I don't know. It's weird how life works. It's like you can never
have it all planned out, but you don't need to.
No, and that's so cool. And I think I can just see like a shift in my podcast even about like doing more like self-care and self-love and things like that versus I feel like the podcasts Even the same podcasts. Like I can't really say which ones because I don't have them in the top of my head. But they used to be so like work, gig. Like we're doing this.
Right.
And now they're like, we're starting to slow down. And it's like, and then my life, it's like, okay, I'm just going to start slowing down. It's so weird.
No, I noticed that too. It's kind of like everybody's kind of on the same boat.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, we've realized the same thing about the same time you're realizing it, listener.
And it's weird because like my customers too, like if I announce like I'm going to take a couple, a break, or I'm so sorry, like my turnaround time is, I'm going to be a couple days late. Like I feel like in the beginning, and it might have just been like my personal standards, like I feel like they would be mad if I did that. Mm-hmm. But I feel like now they're like, take the time for yourself. Like,
Excellent.
Like you're doing great. Like they're so encouraging. Like I posted a story, which I'm trying to show more of my face on Instagram stories, things like that. Cause I've always been a pretty like self-conscious person. I don't like being like in front of the camera. I feel like I'm awkward. And I recorded myself yesterday saying how amazing, like, cause I dropped Lincoln off for school yesterday and it was like, I didn't have to rush to work. Mm-hmm. I went and I like enjoyed like just having one kid because Ledger's never had like one-on-one time with me ever. I can't think unless Lincoln's like sleeping or something. But he's never really gotten like that one-on-one time, and seeing his little face so happy and like I would joke with him and I'd stomp in little like puddles in the Target parking lot and he's like, oh, I've never been normally it's like I get in and I get out and I'm like,
because you're always going.
I can't really soak in those like moments. And so I put that on my Instagram story yesterday, and the amount of people that were messaging me saying, we're so proud and happy for you and we're so excited, like you've worked so hard for this. And like reading them, I was like, oh my gosh, like this community that I have is so rad. Like it's cool.
It's so incredible how you can start to be so vulnerable about things. Like you can, once you have a community and you're like, gosh, I hope you guys aren't mad at me, but like I wasn't able to get the order done. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, we want what's best for you.
They're like, you're worth the wait is what people say. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm worth the wait. I'm like, that's so cool. Like I'm an emotional person as it is, but even just talking about it, I'm just like, oh, like I feel. One thing that like really opened my eyes was that Small Shop Saturday event that I had, which I've had like events before where like, people are waiting in line and stuff and my stuff sells out really fast. Like that's so cool. But when I had looked at that event, and it's almost like my world stopped for a second because I had worked on this, like organizing it and sewing all this stuff for so long. And I had looked back, and at one point, the entire room, like I had a line, like waiting for me. And I remember for the things that I made, like I stayed up late for, I cut, I sew, I cut again, I package, I put tags on, like I do it all. I looked back, and at a point, I'm like, this is why I do this. Like the amount of stress that I had leading up to this event, it was gone. Like I was like, I like look over there like I'm acting it out, but it was so amazing.
No, that's good. I mean,
and I sold out within an hour.
It's super important that you're able to, like, you're such a busy body, but it is super important, and it's way cool that you're at this point in your life too, as just like an aware person that you can be like, oh, cool. Look at this line. Like this is happening right now.
I'm like, for me, like for my stuff.
This must be similar to one time. Well, not one time, but I've been in clubs where I'm DJing, and I would see people in the crowd who used to like jump me or beat me up. And I'm like, this is
now you're listening to my stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, you had to pay to get in here, motherfucker. Thanks.
Right?
Like it's I'm sure it's not exactly like that. But
no, it is weird though, because just how like things come around is like I have customers that have kids now that I would have never thought, like we didn't like each other in high school. We didn't like each other in middle school. And now it's like they're part of my community. Right. They're part of my tribe. I'm selling for, like they trust me to sew clothes for their kids, their babies, their pride and joy. They're putting their babies in it that I made. It's like, and I would have never thought some of the people, like I never thought I would have even been friends with them or anything. Right.
It's funny you grow up and, staying in the small town, we have, if you look at like, say, Instagram people who like move away, like you got to get away from your hometown or whatever. And I think you kind of get older and you kind of start to realize, you're like, wait, what is it that about my hometown? What didn't I like? And you start letting others to change. You start allowing yourself to change. And then you have interactions with people and you're like, wait, I don't even remember why I thought that I didn't like you, or
no,
what?
Yeah.
Like, I thought you didn't like me. And I'm like, what? I thought you were awesome.
Or the amount of energy it takes to hate somebody or like to not like somebody.
Right.
I'm like, I ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
Like, let go. So that's been like I don't know if it's just as I'm getting older or like this, I don't know, the self work that I've done on myself, but it's like
all of it.
Yeah. I mean, customers that I never thought I'm like, it's so cool. Like, hi, do you want to have play dates?
Yeah. Wait,
I'm like,
where's your kids? Bring them over here. My kids
right?
are going to meet them. You guys are going to be best friends.
It's so cool because it's like, you never would have thought like you'd ever even talk to them after high school or something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, you're in a beautiful spot in your life right now. That's for sure. I feel like I'm excited for the future. Do you have any sort of the coming, let's say, year or two? What are you thinking for Clover+Tribe? Like, what do you want to, obviously not just like sales goals, but like what do you want to represent going forward? What do you want to continue to push out with Clover+Tribe in the next few years?
So I feel like I've always had to put like a cap on my stuff because I am like a one-man show. And so I've always had to put like a cap on stuff. So I can't offer things to everyone and people get sad, or things sell out so fast and people are messaging me like, oh, I'm so sad I didn't get it. And so I think going forward, now that I am doing this full time, I would love to be able to like, if somebody wants something or they want like a custom or something like that, reach out to me and I will like, I have a little bit more time now. Right. And like, I want to be able to offer more to people. But I also, I feel like when I started this business, there was a lot of like competition. And I will say I fell kind of into it too. It's like, oh, she's doing this. And, you were kind of like, oh, I don't know. Do you get that way?
You got the idea first or something.
Yeah. Or like, oh, she's, sewing these, or, oh, she's doing this. And I feel like in the past, I've never really been like, I'm a competitive person, like working out and stuff like that, but not really like in this sense. Yeah. I'm just, I don't know.
No, I totally get what you mean. It's definitely, I just think of things like Facebook and Instagram, where if you were sewing something and then someone else who has a similar business, you'd post like the same thing. You'd be like, what the heck?
Yeah. So I feel like in the past, I will say like, I'll own it. I maybe did do that, or I did do that for sure. Not even maybe. But now it's like, I don't even.
It's not competition.
No.
Yeah.
It's like, let's just build each other up. Like, if I can't do this, you can do this. Right. Like, let's be a team.
Yeah. See, that's what I've been. It's really cool. I've worked with DJs and stuff like for many years, in different kinds of musicians, but I'm working with more and more musicians, and like we're kind of like we're looking forward into our future of like, what are we doing around here for our community, for the music scene? And it's this like across the board, all these guys I'm working with, they're like, oh, we're all together. Like we want to, you're a rapper, you're a this, you're a that. Like we're working together. We're getting on the same bill. Like it's no competition.
No, or even like, I'm sure you can relate. Like I don't have time to do this order, or I know somebody has the same fabric. Like I have local gals that I can bounce stuff off of, like local friends that sew too. That I'm like, hey, I'm not able to do this. Like, can you do this? And it's so nice to like,
and knowing that they're
gonna, community.
Yeah, and like, they're gonna show out and be like, cool. I appreciate that, and I'm not gonna
not talk shit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
We think that I think that like we kind of grew up. Facebook is still a new thing, and social media and all that stuff. We kind of grew up and we accidentally kept our like high school cliques for a little too long with Facebook, and maybe we like grew out of like who exactly was in them. But there still is cliquey shit on Facebook, and it bleeds over into communities, and it's just not super healthy. So I'm glad that more people are like realizing, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to contribute in the best way.
Like I'm not trying to be a competition like at all. And that's what, I mean, I do kind of see it in this community still, but I hope like over the next year or two that I can just help people or help team up with people. And I don't want drama, like nothing like that. It's like, and I do have a pretty cool little crowd of small shop owners that we all do like different stuff, and supporting them and getting together, doing events, things like that. Yeah. It's so cool. Like,
yeah, I still haven't been to one of those, but I feel like I've heard of them. Like you told me a little bit about them. It sounds like a really cool thing.
They're so cool.
Is it like just multiple businesses that get together?
Yeah. So we each person does like something different, handmade, or I mean, I have a couple close friends that does like upcycled flannels or distressed denim, or my other friend does doormats, or I have another friend that sews. And I feel like a photographer, like I have so many, and I think they're all like my good friends now. Like, I'm like, my good friend community is like huge, because it's like we're all just like a little business. Like it's so cool, and I can bounce ideas off of them. And so I hope too, going forward, I can have more like little business meetings with these people, because I know even just like when you and I get together, it's like when I talk to you, I get like inspired, and I hope you feel the same. But I'm like,
definitely.
I get inspired, and I'm like, yes, that's, you know. And so I think those little like meetings too with like my little business people, or if somebody has like, you know, an idea that they have that they don't really know how to go about it. Like the last 3.5 years, it's been trial and error with so many things, like how to balance stuff, websites, how to do orders. Like I would get up to over 100 pending orders at a time. And I'm like, how do I deal with this? Like, and it's been a pretty good learning curve for myself. And so I know like my friends will bounce things off of me as I bounce things off of them. And I hope like going forward, if somebody has an idea, or how do I get this started? How do I go about this? Like I would love to be that person.
There's
like people can ask me.
There's people next to you with the answers. Like and that's, I mean, even in my world, in the music world, if there's things I don't know, I can hit up one of my homies like, hey, have you worked with this program?
For sure.
They're like, yeah, or I'll come over tomorrow, or like, hey, I'm stuck on this thing. It's great. I think realizing that you have a community rather than thinking you're just fighting everybody or
or like competition. It's like, oh my gosh, I would love like if I don't have something like to send them over to you, or like let's
I've started doing that
do it all together.
Weddings, so I don't DJ weddings at this point for the foreseeable future. But luckily I have over the few years I have multiple DJs that I've worked with that have done weddings. I'm like, cool, you would do well, and so I can forward those people.
Yeah.
And so if someone asks me to do a wedding, no, I'm not.
Like, does a piece of you feel like any competition really anymore?
I'm not really. I've never really been super competitive. And I've just always been super my own thing. So I'm delusional in thinking that nobody's in my lane, though. It's probably what it is.
Yeah,
I'm like,
sure.
You're not competition because I'm just doing my own thing. I'm crazy. Or I don't know. I just toot my own horn. But I always I always say this thing to myself, and I say it out loud here too in the studio: is you couldn't copy them if you tried. Like when I'm like making a beat, or if someone's like, oh, it sounds like this, or if I'm taking a sample, or I'm listening to Red Hot Chili Peppers to get inspiration, and I'm writing a song, and it's like the same BPM as the Red Hot Chili Pepper song. I'll sometimes be like, man, I can't copy what am I doing? I'm getting too much info from here. But I always end with, you couldn't copy them if you tried.
That's good.
And that kind of unwinds your bullshit, because you're like, oh yeah, what am I even going for here?
Yeah.
I wasn't even.
Because I do have like they don't sew baby clothes per se, but I do have other people that I get like inspo, like even just how they like take pictures and things like that. Like that's been a huge thing on like Instagram for me. I don't see it as competition though, or like they could be doing the same thing as I do, and it's not like I'm ever like, oh yeah, like I don't know,
dude. There's so much that if we just like look at everything that we've built together, you know, like all the information that we don't have as individuals, but when we combine it together and be like, what do you know about this?
There's a thing on your wall that said, every single person you meet knows something you don't. I love that.
If you enter into every conversation with that, you're just super happy to meet everybody.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, oh, well, especially like parenthood. Oh my gosh.
Like walking into it as if you know this thing and they probably don't.
Yeah, I listened to Nona's podcast and I mean, mom guilt. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Oh my God. It's like.
What is that like? Like, is it like when you post something, does it come back or?
It's more just like everything you do. And sometimes like, I know for me, like something that's worked out for me, like I just want to offer advice or like some people don't like that or vice versa too. Like,
I get that.
Say like, you know, when I'm like, some people just I want to vent and the person's like, oh, well, maybe you need to do this, this, and this, right? And it's like, okay, I like literally just wanted to have like a little mental breakdown real quick.
Well, choose your position for the mental breakdown then.
But yeah, mom guilt though is crazy. Like I feel like we're getting better about it. Like it's getting more like awareness about like, breastfeeding, formula feeding, co-sleeping, sleeping in the crib, blah, 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 like things like that. I feel like it used to be so like, oh, wow, you're doing that. Like, I know for me, like I had my kids sleep in the crib from day one. And people are like, oh my gosh, do you not care about them? And I'm like,
what? Like, is that what that means? Oh,
yeah,
shit.
no,
I didn't know.
Seriously, though, I'm like, it's their bed. But like, people would literally say that. Or like the fact that I work out of the house or something like that. That's been a huge thing too. Or I know even like self-mom guilt too, though. Because like,
yeah, for sure.
For sure. That's a huge thing, like, for me. I know, like, dropping Lincoln off at preschool sounds so dumb. Like, dropping him off and picking him up and things like that. Like, you're having to coordinate somebody else to do that. Mom guilt for me, it's like I see all these other moms getting to pick and drop off their kids every single day.
Right.
Like, I'm not getting to do that. So that was a huge part of, like, just my self-mom guilt. I just used preschool for an example because Jake's like, babe, it's preschool. But
chill.
Yeah. But it's like certain things like I'm trying to think of another example.
You think it's just kind of like a lot of like thinking that they're thinking this about you? Is it sort of like that?
Yeah, it's like that. Or I know like with Lincoln, for example, because you think like, okay, one kid is like, I mean, you can be such a good mom with one kid. You have one kid to worry about. And Lincoln was a pretty good baby. And so like things that worked with him, it's like, oh, like, do this. And maybe it's not like I ever like really guilted. I'm trying to put myself in like, did I ever judge people? And it's like maybe like in my head, I'm like, oh gosh, now that I have 2 kids though, holy shit. It's like, I mean, they control me. Like
I do what they say.
At this point, it's like keeping him alive. like
this one's breathing. We're good.
Ledger's eating dog food. I'm like, oh, it's protein. Like,
what kind of dog food is that? Gluten-free dog food,
right? As where before, it's like people would maybe be like, because I even see myself like, oh wow, like they're letting their kid eat dog food. That's kind of weird. But now that I have 2 kids and it humbled me up a little bit, I don't know. It's like, yeah, they eat dog food. just
or, you're dealing with what's coming at you. That's what a lot of people are doing.
I mean, Ledger's so wild and things that didn't work with, I will say 2 kids too are so different. So different. Like you can think you have it all mastered with one and the other kid will just, I mean, Ledger's so good. Right. But they're good in different ways. Like they're different.
Shaylee has her nephews. We always call them Pete and Repeat because like whatever the big one does, the little one is obviously the shadow. Of course.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like it's like they could be fine, and then they see each other and like we're gonna do some fuck shit now.
Exactly.
We're gonna be shitheads.
I will say Ledger. He wants so bad to be like Lincoln, but he's only 1. Like he just turned 1, so he doesn't have like. I mean, he will get up and he will climb and he
doesn't have the coordination.
But he doesn't have the coordination or like and so he's a wild one. And I feel like all of my friends, like with the second, it's like, they're like, oh yeah, that's the second. Like they're just wild. But having 2 wild boys that are, and it's just like putting out fires constantly. Like if one's not happy, the other one's not. Like if one's happy, the other one's not happy. It's just, I don't know.
Well, there's no damn mom guilt here to be found in the life of Taya Sanders, that's for sure.
Do you have any dog food laying around here?
Do I have any dog food? No, kidding. I ate it all. I did actually this morning. I'm not kidding. Here's my extent. You have 2 children. I had a problem with 2 stray cats this morning. This is how different our life is. I was meditating with out my back garage door because I think it maybe was sprinkling or something, but I wanted to be outside. And I was like 15 minutes in. And then to the left over here, so there's a lumber yard over here. And I just heard like the hissing out of nowhere. And obviously it pulled me out of my meditation. And I was like, hey, like made a noise because I knew that it was these 2 stray cats. And they sprint out. And then they're just like sitting in front of me for 50 feet for the rest of my meditation. And then to be honest, the rest of my meditation was just sitting there thinking about these cats.
Distracted.
Well, because of the nature of who I am, I've already named these cats prior to this moment because there's a few cats.
Did you see
floating around here.
That I had a stray dog the other day?
No. What do you do?
Oh, yeah.
Is
So,
it yours now?
I mean, I called to check on it because I had to bring it to the Humane Society. It was so
Oh.
sad. But yeah, so we had a dog show up at our front. And it wanted to be in the family. We named it Milo.
Okay, he's got a name.
Yep, he's got a name. And I left the blanket like with, because we have 2 dogs too. So we have 2 dogs and 2 babies, and we're selling our house. So I mean, a piece of me was like, oh, that's really sad. Like, I wish we could, take it to the vet or wash it. I even asked Jake, I go, can we like give it a little bath? And he's like, we don't even bathe our own dogs. I'm like, true.
You know how fucked up the other dogs be like, are you kidding me? You're watching, they're just outside the window looking.
Granted, Milo is tiny and they're labs, but it was funny. We bring it to, I was bringing it to the Humane Society in the middle of trying to look at all these spaces the other day. Still had a kick-ass day too, by the way. And I had to, although I did like, I'm like, oh, Milo, I'm like, can I call and check up on him? And so we left like a blanket, and Lincoln's like, that's our doggy's blanket. And I'm like, Bubba, like, this doggy really wanted it. And he was really sad because we're dropping it off. And he's like, okay.
Oh, like, man.
I know. But yeah,
he's
we
like,
had a stray dog.
He's like, why would you be getting rid of this dog anyway, though?
He was like, at first, though, he's like, we're not keeping it because it was kind of ugly. It had like a really bad underbite. And so the teeth were really spiky. And so Lincoln was like genuinely, I know. Lincoln was like genuinely scared though about the dog. Mm-hmm. He was like, he's like, Mom, the teeth. And I'm like, it's just got a gnarly underbite, Bubba.
I want the snaggletooth doggy.
I know.
He's just got some hitchhikers hanging out. Waiting.
I know. Oh, yes, that was my stray dog story.
Well, we are getting up here in time, my friend. I feel like we've got a pretty good overview of who Taya is.
Yeah.
And what Clover+Tribe is.
I've worked my ass off.
You certainly
to get to
have.
This point.
Congratulations on everything that you've done and what's coming here now.
I know, I'm excited.
Your future. What's going forward? So what's next in the very what's right next? So you got a space.
Yes, I got a space. Okay. I am moving in within the next couple weeks.
Okay.
And then I'm just gonna. I do pretty big website launches, but I did kind of like a poll of what my customers kind of want to see. And so I'm going to do my plan. Obviously, things change, but my mental plan is I'm going to do monthly website launches. But in between those monthly website launches, I'm going to still be launching things. I'm just going to have like a big website launch once a month.
Cool.
And then I would love to do more local events. I only think I got a couple in last year. I think I did 3 local events last year. I already have one planned for February. I think it's 20th at the Color Bar.
Okay.
Color Bar is having a grand opening.
Awesome.
And so I have that one. And then I'm just going to try to be scheduling local pop-ups and stuff. And hopefully I'm super stoked I'll be able to offer local pickup when I'm in my studio, my office space.
Just name it whatever you want, like whatever feels coolest
right?
that day.
My office space, I'll be able and not only that, because I've had local pickup places before, but I get to like meet my customers too.
Right.
Because before they would go pick it up locally at a local spot, and now it's like I get face-to-face interaction. Mm-hmm. I get to shake their hand. I get to thank them for buying the item.
Right.
I get to maybe meet their kids, like things like that. I'm so stoked for.
Oh, that's so cool.
It seems
that's
so
little,
circle. But yeah.
That's so fulfilling. I think we kind of forget why we do things, and that's a reminder of like, oh, this is why I do this. This is
I was
awesome.
talking to you about Target. I see this baby, and it's happened multiple times since, or people will show up to my events and their kid will be like decked out in my stuff, and that's so cool. But the very first time I seen somebody, and I was pretty at a low like stress or a low point, high stress, like that day. And I remember I was just, trucking along in Target, and I see a baby from across the way in a shopping cart wearing an outfit that I like. I mean, I will say like blood, sweat, and tears, not blood because I cut myself
Hopefully
sometimes.
You washed it.
Right? But you know what I mean? Like I see it and
it pulls you out of your shit, right?
Oh my God. I was like, this is why I do it.
Yeah.
This is why I do it. That's
you're having
so cool.
a bad day. You're like, oh, I'm going to the grocery store. I'm going to Target. I'm getting all these things. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah.
Like, how cool is that? I even went up to the person. I'm like, hi. Like, I'm so excited. I made that. Like,
did you just pick up?
so
You just
cool.
picked up their baby, right? That's
and
okay.
ran
to do.
off with
yeah.
it.
Like, hey, well, no, it's my clothes. I made the clothes.
Right? I'm like, hi, buddy. Like, it's so cool because I love babies.
Yeah.
Love babies. And I think just like seeing kids in the clothes that I made,
Right.
like, you can only imagine how cool that is.
Yeah,
That's
for real.
so cool.
And you get to meet the people too. So how are you going to handle that? Or do people just message you on social medias or on your webpage when it's
I'm
up?
planning on having at least 2 days a week, if not 3, that I am in my office space.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically, when I send the notification that it's ready for pickup, it'll have the instructions of like, you know, we're open Monday, Wednesday, Friday from this time to this time.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a good way to manage it.
Yeah. So, because right now I ship right now I'm shipping 100% of my items, but locally, when I had the local drop off, I was shipping probably 70%. So I'll get to like actually like meet 30%, if not more, of the people.
I mean, that's fulfilling for them too, I bet. Like even from the customer experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had...
Because you kind of feel like you know somebody over social media.
Right.
And then like meeting them.
I had that when I did those You Matter hoodies for a while because I was doing a lot of custom orders for that.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like, I mean, that was something that was like way too much for me. I just didn't... It was great that I did it, but it was cool. Like when I was done with it, I could text them like, okay, hey, I'm finally done with it. Thanks for being so patient.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're like, cool. And then I could go to like their house and drop it off. And they're just like, they're looking at it and they're like, oh, this is so cool.
And they're
finally,
so excited to get it.
And it does feel very fulfilling.
Oh, it's so cool.
I mean, and I, you know, those took me a lot of my time, but not even a little bit of the amount of time that you put into
or like
this,
when people will message me or post like videos of them opening like the package that they got in the mail or something.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Yeah.
So yeah, going forward, that's my plan in the next like month or so. Kind of fast forward or fast track through the next month. I'm going to move in. I'm going to do website launch with all new products, all new prints and stuff. And then I will have a local pop-up in February.
Okay.
And I hope I'm not going to rush getting like my space all set up and stuff because I want to be sewing. Obviously, but I'm going to do little bits at a time. And eventually I hope to, you know, get that spot like dialed in.
Well, and you're setting up your girl cave too. You
I
know. Like you can make it your own. That's your...
I know. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Yeah. And it's like one thing when it's at your house, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it is different.
It's at your house. But then when you go like to work, I'm like, that's so cool.
Yeah, you can
it's
really
a big
separate.
move for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can be fully engaged. You don't have to be pulled out by like running upstairs real quick.
Yeah, so that's
whatever.
the thing is like it's always been like broken up. Like I do little bits at a time and then after bedtime. But it's like then I need to sleep because I have to get up for work and get ready at 6:30 in the morning. Yeah,
I mean, I'm someone who's a huge advocate of like I look at like cubicles and stuff. People who are pulled out, like they're working on their stuff, but someone could lean over and be like, "Hey, can you send me that email?" or blah blah, or they have to respond to emails right away. For me, that would not be good. I have to be able to like have my time to have some focus.
Yeah, I know. Like in this, like in my business, because that's how it was like at my work, and I was fine with that. Because with that work, it's like there's always going to be work to be done, kind of thing. But with this, it's like okay, I can do it. Like. Oh my gosh, I'm just so excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. Okay, so once the website's up, give us listeners, what's the website? Is it Clover+Tribe Co. or is it?
Clover+Tribe.com. And then my Instagram is at Clover+Tribe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, let's finish off the Junkyard Love Podcast. Listeners, this has been Taya Sanders of Clover+Tribe and Jacob Rhines of Junkyard Love. We hope you have a wonderful day. We hope that you don't add into mom drama. We don't believe in that.
Yes.
And we also hope you drink a damn glass of water if you have it.